To divide these polynomials, instead of doing long division, which is what you would have to do, we're going to use a special method called synthetic division. Okay, for synthetic division, the first thing you're going to look at is what it's being divided by. Since it's being divided by n plus 5, you're going to use a negative 5. You always use the opposite. Since it's n plus 5, you're going to use negative 5, and you write it like in a little box looking thing. Okay? Now, look up here. We have n to the 5th plus 12n to the 4th plus 32n cubed minus 18n squared minus 22n minus 40. What coefficient is on the n to the 5th? 1. There's an understood 1 right there, so I'm going to bring it down. What coefficient is on n to the 4th? 12. What coefficient is on the n cubed?
32.
What is on the n squared? Negative 18. What is on the n to the first?
Negative 22.
And then negative 40 is our constant. Okay, once you have written down your coefficients and your constant, and then you put the number in the box opposite n plus 5, so you put a negative 5, you're going to draw a line. Now you need to leave some space because you're going to write in between that number and this line. Okay, to start the process of synthetic division, you're always going to bring the first number down. It just drops straight down below the line. Whatever number drops below the line gets multiplied by the box number. So 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Now you just combine. What is a 12 minus 5? 7. Now you multiply it by the box number, and that gives you a negative 35, because 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. What is 32 minus 35? Negative 3. Then you multiply it by the box number, and it gives you positive 15. So since it's positive, what is negative 18 plus 15? Negative 3. And then you multiply it by the negative 5, and it gives you another positive 15. When you add that to negative 22, you get negative 7. And then negative 7 times negative 5 is positive 35. And when you combine those, you get a negative 5. Okay, this is how you write the answer. Since your question started out n to the 5th power, you're going to start your answer n to the 4th power. So if that's 1 into the 4th, that's plus 7n cubed minus 3n squared minus 3n minus 7 remainder of negative 5. And that's the answer. Just works out like that. Because if you, I don't have time today, but tomorrow I can show you that if you multiplied this n plus 5 times your answer, it would bring you back to this, except for it would say negative 35 instead of negative 40 because that remainder. Okay, number 2. What number am I going to place in the box? Positive 10. It's always the opposite. Since we're dealing with a B minus 10, you put a positive 10 in the box. Okay, what numbers do I bring down from here? Right? 16, negative 58. Okay, now you're going to draw a line. Make sure you leave space. And you're going to bring down that first number, which is a 1. It's not always a 1. It just happens to be a 1 for these first two problems. Now, what do you do with any number that drops below the line? Multiply by the box number. So what's 1 times 10? 10. And isn't it a positive 10? So now we have a negative 9 plus 10, which is 1. And then it multiplies by the 10 to make another positive 10 right here. What is negative 19 plus 10? Negative 9. It then multiplies by the 10 in the box to make a negative 90. Those combine to make a negative 1. And negative 1 multiplies by 10 to make a, and then that becomes a, and then it multiplies by the 10 to make a positive 60, and those combine to make a remainder of 2. The last number is always a remainder. Okay, since it started out b to the 5th, you're going to start your answer b to the 4th, and then plus 1b cubed minus 9b squared minus 1b plus 6. No, I'm going to do it with you. Okay, number 3. What number goes in the box? 6. What numbers come right here?
10, -59,
Okay. Then you draw your line. Okay, what number drops down this time? 10. The first number always drops straight below the line. What do you do with it? Right, multiply by the 6, which gives you positive 60. A negative 59 plus 60 is 1. Now that it's below the line, it multiplies by the 6 to give you positive 6, and that makes negative 8. The last number is always your remainder. Okay, since your question started out in squared, your answer starts out into the first, and then plus 1. All right, number 4. What number goes in the box? Positive 4. What numbers come here?
1, -9, 12,
Shh. You need to be quiet. 26 and
25.
25. Then I'm going to draw my line. Okay, what do I do first? Drop down the first number. So I drop this 1, and it multiplies by the 4 to make a positive 4. And then what do those combine to be? Negative 5. And then it multiplies by the 4 to make a negative 20. And then they combine to make a negative 8. And then it multiplies by the 4 to make a, and then they combine to a, and then it multiplies by the 4 to make a negative 24, and then 1. That's a remainder of 1. So now, since my question starts out into the 4th, I'll start my answer in cube, and then minus 5 in square, minus 8 in, minus 6. Okay, your homework is going to be to do these 4, but let me show you something about number 7. Look at number 7. It's to the 4th power, to the 3rd power. There's no x to the 2nd. So after you've brought down the negative 4 in the box and you're bringing down those numbers, you need to represent that x squared that's missing with a 0. Okay, you have to fill it in because the whole reason it wasn't there is because it's 0x squared, and that's why they chose not to write it. Okay, so that's part of the process. You have to use it. So you're doing those 4 for homework. Does everybody understand? We still have a couple of minutes before time to switch out, so you can be working on it now.